Peacemaker Season 2 is out. All 8 episodes are now streaming on HBO Max. I was a huge fan of the first season. I think a lot of people were. This was kind of, before the official start of James Gunn's new DCU. You pretty much get told that in the first 5 minutes, in the recap of last season, where James Gunn said that whatever is still in this recap from last season is still canon. And there's also a lot of things that they retconned. Specifically, The Flash, Aquaman, Wonder Woman, no longer there, but Superman is still there alongside Supergirl and the Justice Gang. So this season we have everybody returning: Peacemaker, Harcourt, Adebayo, Economos, Vigilante. They're all back, even Judo Master, all those funny ones from last season. But is Season 2 better than Season 1? No. I don't think there's going to be anybody who thinks that. I would be shocked if there's someone who enjoyed this second season more. The first season is easily some of the best television I've ever watched. I think there's episodes in this season that are very good. They have that typical James Gunn aesthetic to it, that emotion, but it's just a little messy. There's just decisions that he makes that just don't quite... I just don't understand why he did this, or why he would want to do the same thing that pretty much a lot of superhero shows, movies have been doing, the multiverse. And I also think a lot of the characters are just sidelined in this season. For example, my favorite character, besides Peacemaker from last season, was Vigilante, played by Freddie Stroma. He is absolutely hilarious, even if it is sort of a Deadpool kind of thing that he's trying to do. He was so goddamn funny, and he's barely in this season. He's in it more in the last couple episodes, but they really just sideline him to a degree where I'm just not understanding why they would leave out Vigilante and Peacemaker's relationship just in general, them being best friends and just their whole connection being goofy, the way they banter, the way they fight with each other, or fight against other people, the way they work together was some of the best parts of Season 1, and you barely did any of that. So in the first episode is when we first see, this multiverse idea first start, at the end of the episode, where Chris is drunk one night. He stumbles into his secret door that's a portal to, we haven't really seen much of it, but it's just this huge room that just seems almost endless. We don't know where it comes from. We eventually figure it out later in this season, how this closet is able to turn into this separate portal. So he stumbles in there drunk, depressed, sad, because at the beginning of the episode, it's much like a Deadpool 3 kind of thing, Deadpool and Wolverine, where he wants to join the Avengers. Well, Chris feels the same way. He wants to join the Justice Gang. He wants to be a part of something, and he gets absolutely denied. They made fun of him. It actually is a pretty funny scene with Guy Gardner and Hot Girl, as well as Maxwell Lord, played by Sean Gunn, James Gunn's brother. They're interviewing him. They think their microphones are turned off to where he's pressing this button and then Peacemaker can't hear him because they're interviewing through a glass, an interrogation type room. And they're just making fun of him, calling him all these crude, absurd names, and he's able to listen to all of it. So I thought that scene was actually pretty funny. So he's depressed after that. He is absolutely super sad he can't join them, that he was denied, that he's not really a part of anything. Which also brings maybe the craziest part of this season, the craziest scene, where there's probably 30 to 40 people in this dude's house drinking, doing drugs. They're all naked. It's just one big crazy orgy, and he is whacked out of his mind. He goes into his portal. He types in the code. He enters it, and he stumbles upon this door that looks eerily similar to his. So of course he tries to enter the same code that is for his door. It works. He stumbles in. It takes him to this huge library type dining room area, living room, where there's just almost a trophy room as well. It's just huge, super nice house, you can tell. And there's a lot of trophies, a lot of pictures, and it's him, his brother, and his dad. And of course, he killed his brother when he was a kid. He killed his dad last season, and they're a group called the Top Trio. And apparently they're basically like the Avengers in this universe, where all 3 of them fight crime together. Everybody fucking loves them, it seems like. It seems like they're literally like Iron Man and Captain America. But not only that, they're a family. And of course, this starts the whole plot of the season, where he wants to go back. He wants to live in this other dimension. But this really only starts or is able to happen when his other self from that dimension puts a gun to his head and they start this huge fight. So they start beating the shit out of each other. our Chris tries to run back to his portal, back to his door through this big room that's pretty much seems endless. And I don't know how you're able to even navigate this room, but he makes it there. He gets tackled. What do you know? He accidentally kills his other self. So this starts the whole thing to where it's kind of perfect to where our Chris can just easily slip into this other world's Chris's life, which seems perfect. And when you're doing a multiverse story, I think a lot of it in the past has pretty much just been a cameo fest. Like the only reason to have this multiverse is to bring in all these other characters from different universes, from different dimensions, and it's just that Leonardo DiCaprio meme where it's just you're pointing at the screen constantly, and that can be fun, that can be cool, but it's obviously been overdone way too much, especially now in 2025. I mean, it's just almost exhausting. But when you think about it in this season, I don't think it's that bad of a decision, like technically speaking, because Chris is sad, he's depressed, not only because, he didn't get on the Justice Gang or whatever, he feels like he's not doing anything with his life, but because he also loves Harcourt. She's, of course, tough as nails. She doesn't show any emotion at all, and she thinks that he doesn't love her back, so he's also depressed about that. And what do you know, he finds out in this other universe they're dating, they're madly in love. So I think using the multiverse isn't the worst thing here, to where he's slipping in, he can see or live this life that he potentially wants to live. But of course, nothing is what it seems. Shit is going to go south, and that's exactly what happens. So pretty much he just decides to take over his other self's world, just slip in nonchalantly. He's obviously acting weird a lot. For some reason, his brother and his dad don't really quite put together what's going on, even though they know that he is acting very strange. And for the first, I think it's like episode 3 or 4 when it happens, or like when he first goes there full time, and everything is just so awesome. Everything seems so perfect. In the first few days he's in there that we see him, he is rolling. Everything seems so perfect. His brother, his dad, they're all fighting crime. They save the day when these, group of bad people, these bad guys try to take over this building with a bunch of bombs. Chris fucking saves the day. He is praised by everyone in this town, in the world. He has this sick-ass motorcycle too that he doesn't have in the other realm, in the other world, and it's pretty badass. He loves it. Literally, he's just riding down the street. People are cheering him on like he's the president or something. But back in the main universe, of course, all of his friends, Economos, Adebayo, Harcourt, Vigilante, they're all like, what the hell do we do? So the whole season is them just trying to go save him. They have to figure out a way to get to this dimension. Chris thankfully leaves behind this device that opens up this portal. And we learn that when he was a kid, him, his brother, and his dad were out hunting, and they run into an alien. So they kill the alien and they take this device to use for themselves. Now with our other main characters, all the other members of the 11th Street Gang is what they call themselves. Besides Vigilante, I think he's sidelined a lot. Harcourt is kind of just more of the same. I mean, we learned that she was also having an affair, not an affair, but she was sleeping with Red Flag Jr. But her whole arc this season is pretty much just, at the beginning, she goes to bars and intentionally gets into fights with dudes. Just complete out bar brawls. She gets the shit beat out of her because she wants to feel something, apparently. I don't know. She obviously can't feel emotion. She's not very good at it. She gets fired from the agency, so she pretty much is hopeless, clueless, nowhere. She doesn't know where to go, what to do. So she goes to these bars, and she secretly does love Chris, but she doesn't know how to express it. So the whole season, she's just acting tough, hiding her feelings until, the last episode where we get this little bit of a bad story about this specific boat ride that her and Chris took a few months back. But other than that, it's just the same with her. I mean, it's just not really much to it. Not much to her character, and it almost becomes annoying to some degree. And then we have Economos. He starts the season out keeping an eye on Chris. He's staked out in a van, listening to him, watching his every move from the agency, from Red Flag Sr., played by Frank Grillo. He's in this actually a lot. He's actually a pretty big part of the season. But John Economos, he is watching out for him because they keep getting these blips, from the agency whenever he uses the portal. So the agency wants to get a hold of this, of course, and a lot of this is really for personal reasons. Peacemaker killed Rick Jr. Red Flag Sr. wants to not only kill Peacemaker, arrest him, but when he finds out that there's a portal, he wants to use it for himself to, of course, maybe find his son in another dimension, which is what I thought at first. But then in the last episode, you figure out what Frank Sr. really wants to use it for. It's pretty fucked up. And then we have Adebayo, who I liked her. I think she's a pretty cool character. I liked her last season. She gets a lot more screen time, a lot more stuff to do in this season than I think anybody else, especially when they do go to this other dimension finally to try and save Chris. There's, of course, a fan theory that was, surprisingly, they sniped this pretty soon. Like, I think after the first or second episode, I was seeing this fan theory everywhere, and it ended up being right. But her and Chris have a lot more of a relationship in this season. They have a lot of one-on-one, a lot of heartfelt conversations, and they really get a lot closer in this season, I think. And I think Adebayo is a great character. She's, of course, Amanda Waller's daughter, who last season at the end, the finale, she outed her. She told on her and what was going on, like behind the scenes of all this with Suicide Squad and all this certain things. So she was fired, of course, and now she's trying to start her own agency. So that's where she is at the beginning of the season, but of course, that doesn't last long when they all have to get together to go and save Chris. Now, with Vigilante being sidelined in this show, I just think James Gunn's writing, I'm not sure, once again, why he chose to not really include him in a lot of this show. He's one of the best parts, one of the funniest parts. For the first, 5 or 6 episodes, the only thing that we really get to see him do, or the running gag throughout, pretty much the whole season, is he pretends to know all these random facts about these animals, about these creatures, about spiders, about owls, stingrays. He's just constantly questioning Adebayo or Economos, saying that he knows every single thing there is to know about a spider, about a stingray, about an owl. So, of course, they play along. They look up all these facts. They start quizzing him, and he gets every answer wrong. And it is funny, but it really just starts happening too much. The running gag just becomes exhausting once again. It just becomes old. And until the last episode or two, when of course he meets his other self when he goes to this other universe, he has nothing to do in this first part of the season. That's literally all he's there to do, for that comic relief that doesn't really work all that much. But when he does go meet his other self in this other dimension, that scene is fucking hilarious. They are literally the same person, the exact same, except for one minor thing. One of them hates Peacemaker. And that brings us to the whole twist of this season, which, like I said before, the fan theory, people on Twitter, everyone sniped this somehow. I mean, I guess it wasn't that hard to figure out because you knew that this other dimension was just too good to be true. And of course, it turns out that America lost World War II in this universe. The Nazis won. They took over America. So there is pretty much just a complete whitewash. Almost everyone in this season in this town is white. And Harcourt starts to notice that at first when they first go there. And we don't get confirmation on this, but I'm pretty sure that they keep, all the Nazis in America, they keep everyone who's not white in concentration camps, which is pretty fucking crazy. I think that is a cool twist. I think that's a cool idea to have of it being a reason why this universe isn't what it seems. And, this obviously first happens when Adebayo walking down the street and everyone in their house comes out. People are driving by just screaming in terror. They start chasing her. That scene was actually pretty funny. And so this is why that vigilante of that world doesn't like Peacemaker, because of course our Chris killed him, but this Peacemaker was a Nazi along with pretty much everyone else in America. So vigilante works for, or is a part of this Liberty Freedom Group, I believe is what it was. He says some funny taglines, some funny mission statement for this group, but it's basically just obviously fighting against the Nazis. So meanwhile, with us figuring out the twist with this other dimension, it being run by Nazis, Chris is completely oblivious to whatever's going on in this world because he is praised so much. Everyone loves him. He is enjoying it. He is back with Harcourt, with that dimension's Harcourt. They are back in love. They're dating. He is the happiest he's been in a very long time, if not ever. He has his brother back. He has his dad. Everything is going so smooth until his friends, the 11th Street kids, come looking for him and they find him. And Harcourt, our Harcourt, finds him. And she starts pointing out all these things like, have you noticed that I haven't seen a single color person in all of town? They're all white people. And with it being Chris, of course, he is not that smart. He is, but he's also just kind of an idiot, kind of a buffoon. So they looked at the desk of, they're at the agency, and they looked at this desk of what appears to be an American flag, but instead of the 50 stars, it's just a swastika. And he's like, what the fuck? And then Hardcore's like, what about that giant mural on the wall by this desk of Hitler? And Chris is like, holy shit, I don't know how I missed that one. And that scene was definitely absolutely hilarious because it's literally just this giant mural of Hitler. It's all colorful, and it's just almost unmissable. I don't know how anybody could possibly miss that, but of course Peacemaker did. So with their cover being blown, obviously they have to leave this dimension. They have to find their way back to theirs because they obviously can't stay. His Hardcore kind of admits a little bit that, I do love you, even though she doesn't fully yet. So he's just out of there. And this is episode 7. There are 8 episodes. This episode definitely felt like a finale, because I think episode 8 is just kind of whatever, and it definitely pissed off a lot of fans. But with them having to escape, they have to go back to the house. They all have to meet their Judo Master, Adebayo, Vigilante, both Vigilantes. But when they do get there, Economos, he was still there. He was waiting for them to all come back. And of course, he gets caught. And no surprise, Economos spills the beans because Red Dragon, Chris's dad, stabs him in the hand. So he just spills the beans about everything, about how Chris killed their world's Chris. And when they all finally reunite back at the house, this is also when one of the other big twists in this season happens, to where Red Dragon, Chris's dad, is going to let them go. He's going to let them go back into their universe, go back through the portal door, and just never come back. But Keith is devastated that his real brother died, that this other Chris, this other Peacemaker, murdered him. Keith can't handle his emotions. He wants to absolutely murder the shit out of our Peacemaker. But for some reason, Red Dragon is letting them go. He seems to be calm. He's telling Keith, calm down. I need you to be a man right here. And this is definitely something that our Chris's dad would never do. He was a piece of shit. And so you're just sitting there thinking, this is a little strange. And then, of course, he starts to give this speech about how he wishes he could stop all the injustices in his world because Hardcore calls him a Nazi and he's pissed off about it. And the reveal is he's not a Nazi. Our Chris's dad, our Chris's Red Dragon, was absolutely a Nazi, a bigot, all the worst type of things. But this Red Dragon, in this world full of Nazis, full of all this racism, he isn't one of them. He actually is fighting all these crimes that he can. So even though, as they were saying earlier too, what Red Dragon and Keith were saying, that their Peacemaker was out of control, alcoholic, anger issues, just absolutely crazy, they were pretty much kind of normal and actually doing good. Which then becomes extremely heartbreaking when, of course, Vigilante pops to the window, both of them, and they just stab the shit out of Red Dragon. He dies pretty much immediately. Keith gets absolutely pissed off. Him and Peacemaker and all of them start fighting. He starts kicking the shit out of Peacemaker. And then, all his friends, Economos, Vigilante, Adebayo, they all start helping out. They once again start stabbing Keith, and Peacemaker loses his mind. He absolutely loses it. He's already seen his brother and father die before. He's killed them both before. He can't bear to witness this again, so he just screams out for help. He tells them to stop. What have we become? Who are we? We're not murderers, even though, they pretty much are, but he just can't bear to watch this happen again, even though it is happening right in front of his face. And it really is just sad when you think about it, to where everything at first, this universe seemed too good to be true, right? Because he had his dad back, he had his brother back, and the things that made this universe to him be too good to be true, to be where he wanted to be, it was actually all true. But when he found out about the Nazis and how, there's only white people ruling the world, they've lost World War II, that's obviously a place he doesn't want to live in. But like they also said, it's not much different than their world if you kind of do think about it in some sort of way. But that universe was technically kind of perfect because his brother and his father were there. They weren't Nazis. They were good people, much different to how his father was in his universe. And it just kind of makes you think it's really just kind of unlucky to some degree, because if he would have gotten that version of his dad and brother in his universe, his life probably would have been amazing. He would have got everything that he wants now, that he's wanted, and he would have been a part of something. So I do think episodes 6 and 7 are definitely the strongest, because then we did episode 8, which just doesn't feel like a finale at all. I mean, the very ending, it's really just, the whole season also just kind of feels like it's setting up for James Gunn's other projects. Not even another Peacemaker season, because nothing has been confirmed yet, but nothing really happens in this episode except for the last few minutes of this, to where Red Flag Sr. finally gets his revenge on Peacemaker and tricking him to walking through this portal door. And the whole episode is Rich just sending Hardcore, all his agency members, to these different universes to try to find something that's just somewhat remotely habitable. And it ends up being, he's trying to find this place to lock Peacemaker in, to trap him there. And so he finally does. He's in this portal, the door closes, he is trapped on this other world. It's like a forest type area. He's like in the middle, there's just forest surrounding him, a bunch of trees, and there's just noises, all these monster noises in the background, something huge, kind of like a dinosaur or something like that. And so that's it. Fucking season ends. And with this obviously being a setup for his future projects, Superman or someone is probably going to go save him, someone who can travel the galaxy like that, someone who can travel different dimensions. Maybe that's what Man of Tomorrow is going to be, when Lex Luthor and Superman have to team up for a specific reason. Lex Luthor obviously has that knowledge of creating these portals, which he's the one who helps Rich Sr. in this season. He does have a small cameo from jail. But with this, last episode specifically being just one huge setup, I don't know if that necessarily bothers me as much as it does. I've, been hearing other people how much it bothers them. I do understand it kind of just, not only a slap in the face, but it just feels like this season was a waste. When it doesn't feel like a complete story, like you've actually gone on a journey, when you've actually, experienced one complete story, one complete plot. I do understand that, and that's where Marvel has really been screwing up too, with all their TV shows, all their spin-offs. You have to watch this TV show, that TV show, in order to understand things that happen in this movie, in the next movie. And it becomes homework, it becomes a chore. So I do understand that. But I also just take it for what it is, and whatever the next project is, I will be there to watch it pretty much no matter what. But anyone who is like completely just super upset about this, I do understand. It is very annoying. But besides episode 6 and 7, which include John Cena's best, acting, I think, in the show, if not ever, that was a huge positive for this season, was how well John Cena is as Peacemaker, as he continues to be. He is definitely made for this role. He brings more emotion. He brings more empathy to this role. You really feel for him. And when he goes to this other universe and he finds his brother and dad alive, you understand why he would want to go to this other universe, why he would want to slip in and pretend like his life is fine. Knowing his backstory, knowing what he's been through, he's killed Rich Jr., he's killed a lot of people, and he definitely regrets it all. So this was kind of his one chance to redeem himself, to really just feel good about himself in general. And of course, it happens to be a Nazi-run America when everything else is pretty much perfect for him. It just didn't work out. So yeah, overall, I think this season was pretty average. It has some highs, it has some lows, it has some just a lot of wasted time, a lot of nothing going on. But John Cena was great. I think, all the 11th Street kids were pretty good, except for Vigilante, like I said. I think he is great in these last few episodes. He just didn't have a lot to do. It is all just a setup for his future projects, which I understand. He's trying to create this whole universe, the DCU. He wants it all to be cohesive, to have it all kind of meshed together. And there's only been really 2 projects so far, so we'll see how that goes. But I will say this season definitely has a lot of forgettable moments, unlike the first season, which is almost a perfect season of television. But anyways, I'm excited to see what he has to do. James Gunn, you pretty much always have to tentatively trust this guy. This probably might be the first thing that I've ever been kind of let down with. I mean, he pretty much always hits. But anyways, as always, I appreciate you guys watching. My name is Zach. Like, subscribe, comment. Later.